What's up, everybody? Facebuster Wrestling Podcast, post-Wrestlemania edition. We have just emerged from the main event of Night 2 of WrestleMania. The show is over. The weekend is done. The road to WrestleMania has come to its end. And holy moly, there was some true bangers, a couple of duds, a lot of, let's just say I got a few things incorrect as far as predictions go, but not a bad weekend. Pretty good show. NXT Stand and Deliver was good, I thought. Night 1 of WrestleMania was really good. I really enjoyed that night. Night 2, not as good as Night 1, in my opinion, but still pretty entertaining. The ending, we'll get to it, but of course, it's what everybody is talking about. Slightly deflating, a little unexpected. I did not expect what happened to happen, but I'm seeing a lot of criticism online about how this is a bad thing, and WWE has dropped the ball on this storyline. I think that is incorrect. In retrospect, this is something I should have maybe seen coming a little more clear. I really thought the opposite was going to take place, but after some thought, I believe that this is going to be a good thing for both parties involved, and we'll get into that a little later. But let's start from the absolute top. Let's start at the beginning. Let's start with NXT Stand and Deliver. Let's just go over everything that happened, the matches, the results, what I got right, what I got wrong prediction-wise. And this was not a good night statistically for me as far as my predictions went. I did terribly calling NXT Stand and Deliver. I have an overall score on the night of 2 out of 7. I did correctly guess a surprise return, which we'll get into. But let's just start at the bottom and work our way up to the top. During the pre-show, I actually missed this match because I did not know there was going to be a match on the pre-show. I should have known better, but I try not to watch the pre-shows because, at least lately, it's just that. It's a pre-show. In the past, they tended to do at least one match on a pre-show, but they kind of got away from that. So I was slightly deceived, and I didn't end up catching Schism versus Chase U because I assumed it was going to be on the main show after the pre-show. I thought maybe this would be the first or second match on the main card, but it happened during pre-show, so I did not see it. However, I got this one incorrect anyway. I originally had Schism winning, which would have given Joe Gacy and Schism control of Chase U moving forward, and I thought there could be a lot to come from that. But apparently Chase U defeated Schism, and if anybody needs momentum right now, I thought it would be Schism, and I thought this would be a good way to give them something fresh moving forward. Taking over Chase U would be a new storyline for them to progress and develop into, but Chase U got this win. Not sure I'm a fan of this result, but we'll see what they do moving forward. I cannot judge the match. I did not see the match. I don't know if it was good. I don't know if it was a shit show. So we'll just move on. That one I got incorrect. Next up, we had Gallus, the Creed brothers, and Tony D and Stax Lorenzo in a triple threat tag match for the NXT Tag Team Championships. I predicted Tony D and Stax to win this. I assumed that a face turn would result from the win and their performance in this match. However, that is not what happened. I still see Tony D and Stax slowly turning face. Even after this match, I could still kind of see it, and they did later in the night, they did a backstage with them and pretty deadly, I believe, which means it's obviously a new feud for them to focus on, and who's going to be the face team in that one? Obviously, Tony D and Stax. But Gallus wins this. I understand what Gallus is. They're a KG seasoned veteran team. I don't think they're made for NXT. I don't think they're long for NXT either. I don't think they'll be there for. You know, as I'm saying this, I'm realizing I'm probably wrong. Because the surprise return that I correctly guessed was Joe Coffey showing up and playing a role in this match and making a difference for Gallus. Joe Coffey returns, interrupts the match, gets involved, and gives the edge to Gallus. Gallus retains. So while, as I stated on the last episode, Gallus, I feel, is more of a main roster kind of team. They're seasoned, they're veterans. That's, of course, NXT needs teams and competitors like that to sort of lend legitimacy to the younger talent and to the talent that is developing. They need the Apollo Cruzes, the Dolph Zigglers for a while, guys like that to sort of add some credibility to the roster and to the event cards. But I never saw Gallus as being that. I guess they kind of are, but I assumed Gallus would maybe lose this. Like I said, I saw Tony D and Stax winning. But as a result of that, I saw Gallus maybe moving up to SmackDown or Raw, because to me they just seem more of a main roster team. They don't need the development system. They're there already. But Joe Coffey returning spells an extended stay for Gallus. They're not going anywhere. They're going to be there for a while. Now it's a new 3-guy team to take on the Schisms, the Chase U's, the Stacks and Tony D's, the other stables and teams in NXT, which I guess is a good thing. Like I said, it's that veteran presence to really help develop the younger guys, to help them hone their craft. So, maybe there is a point to Gallus being there that I just didn't see initially. But Joe Coffey returning really solidifies him staying around. So Gallus retains, and they are now reunited and are the complete version of Gallus. Moving on, next match. These might be slightly out of order. This is just how I have them typed out. We have Wesley, Dragon Lee, JD McDonough, Ilya Dragunov, and Axiom in a fatal 5-way match for the NXT Northern American Championship. This was one of only 2 matches that I correctly predicted on this night. Wesley retains. Solid match. Super exciting. Dragon Lee made his in-ring debut in this one. Really showed off what he can do. He's skilled. He's not just a high flyer. He's skilled in many ways. He's a great striker. He showcased some technical abilities. The guy's really the complete package. He's got great personality. A little more stoic than I'm used to luchadors being, but not so stoic that he's stiff and without personality. The guy has obvious charisma, and I'm excited to see what he gets into in NXT next. McDonough and Dragunov essentially continued their blood feud in this match, but great showing from them. And of course Axiom was there to do Axiom things and fly around and flip all over the place. Just a great match through and through. I predicted Wesley to retain. He does retain. I think they are going to continue to build him up as a single star, as a singles champion. They really got a ways to go before, at least for people like me, they're able to cement him as a singles guy, as a singles champion guy. He's still got the MSK stank on him a little bit, which isn't a bad thing. But even before NXT, the guy's been a team guy with the Rascals. He's been in NXT, the tag team guy with MSK. That's all I know him as, at least, is a team guy. They have a ways to go before they cement him as a singles guy. But I think he's doing a great job, and NXT is doing a great job of doing that for him. So great match. Wesley retains. Moving on. Next up, Fallon Henley and Kiana James versus Alba Fire and Isla Dawn in a tag team match for the NXT Women's Tag Team Championships. The second of the two matches that I was able to correctly predict. I saw Alba Fire and Isla Dawn taking this, winning the tag team championships. They just look more like a team. They feel more like a team. It was clear to me Fallon Henley and Kiana James were not meant to be long-term champions. They're not even meant to be a long-term team. Alba Fire and Isla Dawn have tag team written all over them. I saw this coming from a mile away. We'll see what happens moving forward with Henley and James in their continued, it's not a feud yet, but their spat. When will they break up? What's going to happen with Brooks and the Sebastian thing regarding Kiana James and the suspicions that Henley and Briggs have as far as her infidelity. But Henley and James, two singles, like I was talking about Wesley, they haven't been sold to me as a team. They're obviously a makeshift team. They weren't meant to be long-term champions. They were transitional champions. This proved it. Alba Fire, Isla Dawn, scary, weird, goth, witchy chicks. I enjoy their shtick so far, and I think they'll be a good tag team moving forward. Happy that they won. Happy that they're the champions, and we'll see who they feud with next, because I hope it doesn't continue to be Henley and James, because that's got to be its own thing. Isla Dawn and Alba Fire have got to move on to somebody else. We'll see what sort of actual teams come forward to challenge these two. Next up, Zoe Stark, Gigi Dolan, Tiffany Stratton, Lyra Valkyria, Indy Hartwell, and Roxanne Perez in a ladder match for the NXT Women's Championship. This one threw me for a loop as well, for a couple of different reasons. Originally, before Roxanne Perez was cleared to come back and be in this match, I had Stratton winning. Once Roxanne was announced that she was cleared medically to compete again, and Shawn Michaels allowed her into this match, I assumed that it was going to be Roxanne Perez essentially retaining her women's championship. Well, neither of those things happened. In fact, I'm really surprised at the outcome of this match. This one really shocked me, because I thought they are so high on Roxanne Perez that I thought they were just going to give this right back to her, especially since she's been cleared from her medical issue. But Indy Hartwell won this match with the help of Dexter Lumis, which was a great visual, and it's fantastic storytelling. However, I didn't think that they were going to revisit Indy Hartwell and Dexter Lumis being a thing until Indy Hartwell went up to the main roster. In fact, I originally predicted that Indy Hartwell was not going to have anything to do with the NXT Women's Championship ever, and that after this match, she would be one of the people that we see as a surprise debut, a surprise call-up on either Raw after WrestleMania or the SmackDown after WrestleMania. Boy, was I 100% wrong. Indy Hartwell takes this. Dexter Lumis emerges, helps her up the ladder, which, if it wasn't such a heartwarming story, this was a cheap win, right? Like, that's not fair in any way. This is a cheap win. But nobody notices that or cares about that because it's such a wholesome scene unfolding with Dexter Loomis returning to help his wife or girlfriend. All right. I wonder what the rest of the competitors in this match are going to have to say on the next episode or two of NXT. If they're going to call out Indy Hartwell for this being kind of a cheap win for her. She couldn't do it on her own. She had to have her husband come in and assist her, which isn't necessarily going to fall on her, because I doubt they're going to play it off as Indy intentionally beforehand asked Dexter to be there to help her this way. She played it off as if she was surprised. So I this isn't going to be something that Indy Hartwell is going to take blame for. But certainly the other women in this match, and maybe other women in the locker room that have their eye on the women's championship, are going to give her a little bit of crap for being okay with winning this way. I hope they do mention it. It's an obvious it's an obvious thing to me. They can't skip over this. They can't sweep this under the rug. This is something that somebody has got to address. It wasn't, quote unquote, a clean win. I know it's a ladder match. There's no disqualifications, but still, you expect a face like Indy Hartwell, if she's going to win a match like this, to win it the right way. She didn't win it the right way. It was cheap. It was unfair. This is a heel way to win a match. So it'll be interesting to see who addresses that, how they address it, if they address it, which they better, moving forward. But also, another unexpected happening in this match was Jacy Jayne coming out as Gigi Dolan is grabbing for the belt at the top of the ladder. No shoulder brace. She appears to be fine. Maybe it was this may have been a Jacy Jayne long con. She knew she wasn't going to be a competitor in this match, so she feigned injury, made Gigi think that she didn't have to worry about Jacy Jayne on this night. However, turns out she very much did need to worry about Jacy Jayne that night. Cost her the match, cost her the title. So obviously, Gigi and Jacy's feud can resume immediately. So, moving forward, Johnny Gargano versus Grayson Waller in an unsanctioned match. Got this wrong as well. I thought for sure Grayson Waller was going to take this win. My initial prediction was that Tommaso Ciampa turns on Gargano, allowing Waller to win, and Gargano and Ciampa would take their feud to the main roster. Nothing like that happened. Johnny Gargano, almost quite handily, defeats Grayson Waller. Not sure how I feel about this one. I don't feel great about this one. I think Grayson Waller needs a win like this. He needs to beat a guy like Johnny Gargano on the biggest NXT premium live event of the year. Grayson Waller taking this loss makes him look a bit of a fool. Makes him look a little bit weak. I'm sure they have something in place for Waller to regain his momentum as a supposed next one of the faces of NXT moving into the future. But this did nothing to help him. This wasn't like a veteran helping a young up-and-coming talent get over. This was a veteran who's not going to be on the brand going forward, completely demolishing any fire the young up-and-comer had. What's the path for Waller moving forward now? Is he just has more to bitch about? Is he going to stay verbally feuding with Shawn Michaels? Is that going to be his thing now? What's next for Grayson Waller after this? If Grayson Waller wins this match, he can move immediately into a championship contender sort of role. But now he's got to just sort of tuck his tail in between his legs and recover from it somehow. I don't know why Gargano needed to win this. I guess it's a feel-good thing for NXT diehards. I've been a NXT fan since day one. I didn't want Gargano to win. It didn't. I don't understand this outcome whatsoever. But that's what we get. Grayson Waller is embarrassed, and Gargano takes the win, and he's just going to go back to Raw or SmackDown, right? Or is he going to stay in NXT? If he stays in NXT for a while, maybe this makes sense. But I doubt that's going to happen. Why crush Waller like this? I just don't get it. My prediction was wrong. Gargano wins. Moving on. The main event of Stand and Deliver. Braun Breaker versus Carmelo Hayes. Singles match for the NXT Championship. I did not predict this correctly at all either. I had Carmelo Hayes winning this match. I had Braun essentially beginning a heel turn, responding to the negativity of the crowd that he's been receiving lately. And I expected Melo and Trick to move up to the main roster. Not really needing NXT championship run in NXT, having been a dominant North American champion. I thought he had enough established history in NXT that he could put it behind him and move up, him and Trick. However, Carmelo Hayes beats Braun Breaker and becomes the new NXT champion, the new face of NXT for the foreseeable future. Initially, I didn't agree with this outcome. Like I said, I didn't think Carmelo needed this. I don't think he needs the NXT championship. I don't think he needs an NXT championship run under his belt to become an established star on the main roster. I thought he could have done that with what he's done in NXT already. He could have been one of those guys that holds a secondary or tag title in NXT and moves on to plenty success on the main roster. Instead, NXT sees that it is necessary for Carmelo Hayes to have the main title for a while before that ever happens. After considering it for about a day, I think this was the right move. I having Carmelo establish himself a little bit more in NXT is not a bad thing. There's no rush to get Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams up. This will help him further when he eventually does move up to have this on his resume. But I just initially didn't think it was necessary. Now I do see it as a good thing. I'm excited for Carmelo Hayes to be the main champion on NXT. I think it will add a new flavor to the show that has been missing since maybe about 3/4 or halfway through Braun Breaker's run as NXT champion. Braun Breaker started off as a pretty exciting NXT champion, and it got stale to me real quick. And you can tell by the crowd reactions lately and what Jinder had to say about him a few weeks ago that I'm not the only one that feels that it's getting stale. The crowd is starting to turn on him. That's one reason I'm not sure I understand the very final seconds following this match. I would think NXT wants to see what they can do with a heel Braun Breaker, but with the way that he himself handed the title to Carmelo following the match and gave him the signs of respect, shook his hand, and gave him the ring following the end of the match so that Melo could celebrate with Trick, give him the spotlight. I don't know if that's what's going to happen. It certainly looks like Braun is going to be a face still. I don't know how good of an idea that is. I think Braun Breaker needs to break out of the cheesy babyface shit and try something new. NXT needs to see what they have from both sides of Braun Breaker. And the babyface thing has run its course. The crowd is telling you that. So the sign of respect, the handshake, was a little disappointing to me. What I wanted was the sign of respect, the handshake, And then when Trick Williams turns around or acknowledges the crowd behind him or something, I wanted to see Braun Breaker destroy Carmelo Hayes from behind and begin the heel turn. We need badass Braun Breaker to save Braun Breaker. Otherwise, he's going to get Cena-itis. I mean, way too early Cena-itis. And not in a good way, not in an endearing way like John Cena had Cena-itis. But in a go away heat, we don't like Braun Breaker anymore kind of Cena-itis. It's way too soon for that to happen to Braun Breaker. He's got too much promise as a character in professional wrestling and sports entertainment. And I'm worried that they're going to tire the audience on this guy if they keep him as a face. They got to do something with him a little different. I hope the sign of respect at the end of the match is just kind of like a decoy. And Braun Breaker loses his fucking mind at some point and turns on somebody. The crowd wants to boo him. Let us boo him. Let him be a bad guy. But Carmelo Hayes, your new face of NXT, the new NXT champion, I think it's a good thing. I'm excited to see where Carmelo goes next and who he feuds with for the championship in the future. I hope it's not Braun Breaker. Braun Breaker needs something else. But that was NXT Stand and Deliver. I enjoyed the show. I wish I had known the first match again was on pre-show. I would have watched it. I have not had time to go back and watch it, and to be quite honest, I'm probably not going to go back and watch it because it wasn't that important of a match anyway. Especially since Chase U won. What's going to develop from that? What's next for Schism? Are they going to add new members? Are they going to go more crazy? Are they going to be more creepy? Are they going to kidnap for more people? We'll see. But good show. 2 out of 7 for me, prediction wise. Let's move on to WrestleMania. Starting with night 1. First, well, let's get my standings out of the way. I did much better for WrestleMania than I did Stand and Deliver. I got 8 out of 13, which brings my weekend total to 10 out of 20. So, not too bad. 50-50. Could have been better. I was hoping it would be better, but I'll take it. That's not a losing record. I'll break even. I'll play 500 ball. That's okay. But there were a couple of I guess not surprises, but unexpected appearances that I kind of called. Not in the right context. I expected there to be a Pat McAfee sighting somewhere on night 1 or night 2. I expected it to be possibly with LA Knight, which, by the way, we got no LA Knight, which was disappointing to me. I thought there was going to be a spot. I did not think that, as everybody predicted, it would be Stone Cold coming out to teach LA Knight a lesson. But I thought LA Knight would at least get something. And I thought possibly that would be Pat McAfee. However, Pat McAfee, night 1, returns to the surprise of everyone except me, apparently. Because nobody that I heard expected him to be there. Everybody I listened to and read had determined somehow that Pat McAfee would definitely not be there, which I don't blame them because Nick Khan mentioned, he essentially said Pat McAfee wouldn't be on WrestleMania. I smelled bullshit. I assumed Pat McAfee would make an appearance at some point. I just thought it would be in different context. Nonetheless, he comes back later in night 1 and beats up The Miz with the help of George Kittle, by the way, which is great. I'm a 49er fan. I love George Kittle. So I love to see that. But the McAfee return I did get. I called no Stone Cold because I assumed that they would advertise that. They'd want to milk that for every penny that it's worth, which would be worth a hell of a lot of pennies. It's worth way more to announce Stone Cold is going to be on WrestleMania than for it to be a surprise, especially after last year. Stone Cold's not going to be a WrestleMania surprise. Stone Cold would be a Raw surprise or a SmackDown surprise. You're not going to have WrestleMania and have Stone Cold surprise everybody by showing up unannounced, unadvertised. That doesn't make any business sense to me. They'd want to make money off of that. So I knew Stone Cold was not going to be there. I assumed Stone Cold was not going to be there. I can't say let me take that back. I can't say I knew Stone Cold was not going to be there. I don't know Stone Cold personally. So I couldn't say that for sure, but I assumed that Stone Cold would not be there. And I was right. So I'm not putting that on my scorecard, but score 1 for me. And Lashley was there, however, not in the context that I assumed that he was going to be there. Instead of what I thought, I thought perhaps he would be a potential secondary option to come out and face LA Knight if it wasn't somebody like McAfee or Stone Cold. I also thought that maybe, assuming that his match with Bray Wyatt wasn't going to happen, which it didn't, that he would be the one, or he would be somebody who assists Omos and possibly reforming the Hurt Business on this night, that Omos faces Brock Lesnar. Also did not happen. Instead, they give him like a minute and 30 seconds to come out on the top of the ramp and hold up the Andre the Giant Battle Royal trophy. For real? One of your top guys. You can't find something even last minute for this guy to do? It's Bobby Lashley. He's one of your biggest stars. And you have him come out and hold a trophy up? That sucks, dude. That is hot trash garbage. That is hot, burning trash garbage. I would be appalled, frankly, if I were Bobby Lashley. And as a fan of Bobby Lashley, I am appalled. And I would like an apology directly from the WWE, because that sucked, man. You can't find something last minute for this guy. Okay, fine. He made an appearance on WrestleMania. I expected it to be in a different context. But, hey, I guess he gets a little bump in his pay from at least being there. So good for him, but bad on the WWE for completely dropping the ball on getting Bobby Lashley in a more relevant part of the card somehow. You're telling me you couldn't take the extra 4 to 5 minutes that you spent replaying Seth Rollins' entrance from night 1 on night 2 for some reason? What the hell was that? What was the point of that? Everybody who's watching night 2 already saw that because I'm assuming they watched night 1. Why do we need to see Seth Rollins' entrance again? Give Bobby Lashley a squash match with Mustafa Ali? Dolph Ziggler? Marseille? Mansois? Anybody. But no, you spend 4 to 5 minutes showing us an entrance from the night before. Sucks. That sucks, dude. Not cool. Give Bobby Lashley that time. We didn't need to see something that we saw already. You do that enough on Raw and SmackDown. Hey guys, in case you forgot, here was an entrance from last night. Remember? Because you saw it already? In case you wanted to see it again, here you go. I don't get it. But let's get to the actual card. Night 1 of WrestleMania, my favorite of the 2 nights. First up, John Cena versus Austin Theory for the United States Championship. I got this one right. John Cena lost. Austin Theory won. John Cena helped put Theory over. Great. That's exactly what needed to happen. Theory needed this win. He needed to beat his former idol, the guy that he used to look up to. Like I said in the previous episode, John Cena is not going to win and come back as a full-time champion. Dude's too busy doing voiceovers for car commercials and making car movies. He's too busy with cars and, being Hollywood famous. He doesn't have time for a full-time WWE United States Champion schedule. He's not going to show up on some random SmackDown in Poughkeepsie and defend his title against whoever. He's not that guy anymore, obviously. And boy, did he kind of look it, right? He didn't... He certainly looked like a part-timer in this match. He did not look great. But this match did what it needed to do. Austin Theory needed to win this. It was obvious he was going to win. And like I mentioned on the prediction show, he does it in a dirty way. He gets the low blow and takes it from Cena. That's exactly what needed to happen. Win it in a douchey way, but still convincingly. Not the greatest match, but did what it was supposed to do, which is further push Austin Theory as a legitimate United States champion and a future star moving forward. Moving on, we have one of the tag team showcases, one of two tag team showcases on the weekend. This being the men's 4-way showcase. Street Profits versus Alpha Academy versus Viking Raiders versus Ricochet and Braun Strowman. I predicted the Profits to win, and the Profits did win. However, I also predicted this to be a situation where Maximum Male Models and Maxine gets involved, potentially causing the split between Otis and Gable. That did not happen. This was just what it was. It was what the name implied. It was a showcase match. And to be fair, it was a good showcase match. It didn't mean anything, but it was entertaining as hell. It was a great match for what it was. It was, like I said, entertaining, which is certainly more than I can say for the other 4-way tag team showcase match that happened on night 2. We'll get into that later. This was great. It was a good early, middle of the card spectacle kind of match. You got your giant bunch of giant guys. You got Strowman and Eric and Ivar and Otis in there. You got your high flyers and Ricochet and Montez Ford. Two of the highlights. In fact, I'd go as far as to say the two main highlights of this match went to two of the more unexpected competitors in this match. One being Chad Gable, and the other being Angelo Dawkins. Dawkins getting one over on Braun Strowman on the outside on his second Strowman, I think they call it the Strowman Express or something, when he runs the Strowman choo-choo attack, when he runs around the ring and he shoulder checks dudes on their ass. The second time coming around on that, Dawkins was waiting for him, and Jesus, man, he lit up Braun Strowman, and it looked real legit. He put Strowman on his ass, big time. I mean, good God. The way Strowman went down, I don't know if Dawkins is just that strong or Strowman just did a hell of a job selling that shoulder check from Dawkins. If it's Strowman being good at selling that for Dawkins, what a favor for Angelo Dawkins. Boy, did he make him look like a star right there. And the other main highlight spot came from Chad Gable, also on Braun Strowman, when dude German suplexed Braun Strowman. Little Chad Gable it was fun to see, but also is it that unexpected? We've seen Chad Gable pull off feats of strength that you wouldn't otherwise expect from a guy his size. But man, the way he executed this German suplex was phenomenal. It looked great. It made him look superhuman. So, again, this match, total showcase, total exhibition. It was what it was, but it was entertaining, and also I got it right in my prediction. So extra good, for me. All right, next up we got Becky Lynch and Lita and Trish Stratus versus Damage Control. I got this correct as well. I assumed Becky Lynch, Lita, and Trish would win this match. However, I also assumed that this would visibly start to show Damage Control fracturing and inevitably breaking up. Didn't really see that. I just saw this as a victory for Becky and her squad. I did hear a lot of people, as I mentioned on the previous episode as well, people were calling for Trish to turn on Lita. I did not see that. I questioned why. We've seen Damage Control put their hands on Trish. Why would Trish turn on Lita and Becky and essentially show favor for Damage Control? It doesn't make any sense. I did not see that. So kind of called that. I don't know why so many people assumed that was going to happen, but it did not happen. This was a fairly straightforward match. Becky Lynch did her thing. Trish Stratus, oh my God, what what more can we say about Trish besides, oh my God, Trish, okay, just Trish. That's all I gotta say. Lita, poor Lita. I, for the life of me, do not understand how Lita can pull off energetic, nearly perfect moonsaults, but anything else that you would assume is more simple than a moonsault doesn't look very good. Moonsaults, fabulous. Everything else, even a simple strike, a kick, a punch, Irish whip, not looking so hot. I know it made more sense for Becky Lynch to win the tag titles with Lita, considering Becky Lynch had worked with Lita not too long ago and feuded with her. And therefore, I know Becky Lynch in real life looked up to Lita, but man, it would have looked so much better if they had put Becky and Trish together. And they could have still had Lita play the Trish role, not be tag team champions with Becky Lynch, but just, be the outside help, like Trish is doing with this. Lita and Trish should have been swapped at the beginning of this whole thing. Becky Lynch and Trish should be tag champs, not Becky Lynch and Lita. Lita does not look right. And I feel bad saying that because I love Lita. But optically, it just is not working. Trish looked great, and I'm talking about her in-ring work, okay? Trish looked stunning, yes, but her moves, her strikes, they all look pretty good. Not out of this world, not like blow your mind fantastic, but a hell of a lot better than what Lita is putting out right now. Either way, called this one. The Hall of Fame team won. Damage Control took the loss, but I saw no signs of dissension or cracking on that team. Not sure what they're doing moving forward, but I hope hope it doesn't last much longer. I hope they find something else for the three of them to do. Damage Control is a failed experiment, and I would like to see its demise sooner than later, please. So, moving forward, once again, Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul. I got this one incorrect. I had Paul winning this match with the help of a returning Matt Riddle, which you can hear the my strategy behind that prediction on my previous episode. And I got my hopes up when Logan Paul came out with the Prime drink bottle mascot character. I thought perhaps Matt Riddle was inside of that giant Crayola crayon looking Prime mascot suit. I was really hoping it was Riddle. I thought also that The Miz would get involved in this somehow because he had so much to do with this feud building up to WrestleMania. I thought this was going to be Miz's spot. I didn't know Miz was going to have 2 impromptu matches, one for each night. I thought Miz was going to do his hosting thing and also appear in this somehow. But no, none of that happened. Seth Rollins gets the win, and Logan Paul still looked good in this match. Still had a formidable match with Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins came out looking like a glam Jeff Jarrett. I guess you can chalk this up as another spectacle match. If not for anybody getting involved and helping Paul win this match, Seth Rollins would have had to win this match just based on what he said previously about if he loses to Logan Paul, he would be a joke. That would make Seth look really bad. I thought Paul would take this because I thought he was going to have outside help. More so than, the outside help he did have, which apparently was this guy named KSI, who I've heard of, but I know nothing about. Seth, I guess, needed this win. Sure. He apparently Logan Paul's contract is up following this weekend. We don't know if Logan Paul is going to return. So, with that uncertainty, I suppose why give him a giant win at WrestleMania? How would he come back to rub that in Seth's face, or come back and brag about that moving into his next feud, if we don't even know if the guy's going to be in WWE going forward? So until that is resolved, I suppose it does make sense for Rollins to beat him. Paul will probably, I don't know, maybe he'll box again. Maybe he'll re-sign. I honestly hope that he does re-sign again, because he's been really good thus far as a competitor. They can bring him out for the big premium live events. He doesn't have to be a full-timer. He can do his other stuff, his YouTube stuff, his podcast, his branding, his whatever Logan Paul does on the side or full-time, and do WWE on the side as he's been doing for the last few years. Either way, Rollins wins. I was wrong. Let's move on. So, next up we get Charlotte Flair versus Rhea Ripley for the SmackDown Women's Championship. I guessed Ripley would win. Charlotte will go on to Raw as a heel to challenge Belair, because WWE, looking at this long term, having some foresight, wants Charlotte, who is at 14 championships, to reach Ric Flair's milestone of 16 while he is still alive, so they can do a fancy celebration. I think that is still going to happen. I think I've called this correctly. Ripley did in fact win, in what was a hell of a match. One of the best women's matches I've seen in a very, very long time. And I think Charlotte knew that as well. If you paid any attention to how she was, if you paid attention to her body language, especially after the match, you could see Charlotte on the outside as Ripley was celebrating, grinning ear to ear. And I think that look on Charlotte's face is relief. Not to be rid of the championship belt. Not that she lost, but that she finally got a worthy challenger. That she was finally able to turn over the championship to somebody that she deems as deserving. As somebody who gave her a real fight. The last woman to give her a real fight like that was that match with Ronda Rousey quite a while ago, when they really beat the shit out of each other. This was equally brutal. I think Charlotte loves this. She loves that Rhea Ripley was able to bring this sort of competition to her. I think that's something that Charlotte Flair seeks out from opponents. She wants somebody to take that championship from her, somebody who deserves it. And she saw Rhea as that type of competitor. And I really think that she was authentically happy to have Rhea challenge her in such a fashion and to give her such a hard, brutal match. Charlotte is probably tired of the cookie cutter soft shit. She's been a champion many times and has probably had to relinquish the belt in losses to some women that she didn't see as deserving or as on an equal playing field of competitiveness as her. And she finally, in a rare moment, got that out of Rhea Ripley. I think she is genuinely happy for Rhea Ripley. I think she is genuinely happy to have a match like that at WrestleMania. And Rhea, as far as I'm concerned, definitely deserves it after such a showing. That was an incredible match out of those two. Absolutely brutal. I loved it. I loved this match. And this is the type of competition that we need out of the women's division to continue to elevate the women's division, not only in WWE, but in wrestling, period. Especially stateside. Women's wrestling in the States, while it has improved, certainly, since the days of Diva Championships and Butterfly Belts, it's got a ways to go. It's been good and at times great, like we saw tonight. And you do have women like Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair and Asuka in the thick of things now. After so many years of models and underwear and bra and panties matches and mud bath matches and pudding matches and shit like that. This is real wrestling. This is brutal. This is what women's wrestling needs. And this type of match will only help elevate it and legitimize it even more so. We need more of this. We need more Charlotte Flairs versus Rhea Ripley's at WrestleMania 39s. We need more of these. We need more women to step up in this manner like Rhea Ripley did, as Charlotte Flair's been doing for a while. We need women like Ronda Rousey to give a shit again, as she once did, and now it doesn't seem like she does any longer. We need women like that to step up and compete in this type of manner. I loved seeing this, and I hope it's indicative of where at least the WWE's women's division goes. So this gives me hope. This match gave me hope. And man, was it fun to watch. Next up, Rey Mysterio versus Dominic Mysterio. Father versus son. This was a small masterpiece. I predicted Dominic to win. I also mistakenly predicted Santos Escobar to come out and turn on Rey, because Rey, being unable to beat his disrespectful son, would lose the respect of Santos, causing him to turn on Rey and start a feud, especially with Backlash in Puerto Rico coming up. I thought that could be a really cool luchador feud to have in Puerto Rico. Rey Mysterio won, and again, like a couple other matches on WrestleMania and Stand and Deliver, after some thought, I believe this was the right thing to do, especially given Rey Mysterio's fresh Hall of Fame induction, and the fact that this only has to be the first chapter. This doesn't have to be the last time we see Rey Mysterio versus Dominic. And even if Dominic won, I didn't see that being the only match between the two of them, if Dominic won. But Rey Mysterio beating Dominic, I think to a lot of people will seem like, okay, well, that's done. He taught his son a lesson. They can both move on to other things. I don't know. Maybe they will in the short term, in the immediate future. Maybe they'll do other things, but this isn't the first and last chapter of Rey versus Dominic. At least as long as Rey Mysterio remains an active competitor. I think Rey's got plenty left in him. I think he's going to be full-time for quite some time moving forward. And I think having Rey win only adds to Dominic becoming more of a scumbag, which is what we need. We need more scumbag Dominic. We all know at some point in the future, these two are going to reunite, and it'll be a tear-jerking, wholesome moment. Father and son, after years of fighting and a brutal feud, finally reunite. Maybe they do the tag team championship thing again. But this story can go deeper. And maybe Legado plays a part in the deepening of that story, adding more depth to this. Maybe Rhea and Judgment Day plays a part in adding more depth to this. But this is far from the last time we see these two. This was a match with some awesome storytelling, the back and forth, the tributes to Eddie, the entrances. Man, the Dominic entrance was fucking fantastic. Dominic, by the way, wearing the Mysterio mask, you can tell by him appearing in that, you can tell that's Rey's son. Dominic with the mask off, it's you can see the resemblance a little bit. Obviously, they're related, right? But with the mask on, holy shit, Dominic looks like Rey Mysterio with that mask on. Just a tall, lanky Rey Mysterio. This match was great. I loved it. Rey wins. I got it wrong, but I think it's good that I got it wrong. This told a fantastic story, and I'm excited to see how the story continues to play out. Moving on. Next up, the main event of night one, the Usos versus Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens for the undisputed WWE Tag Team Championships. I predicted Zayn and Owens to win. That is what happened. And what can you really say about this match other than it was absolutely spectacular? What a performance by both teams. What an incredible portrayal of underdog baby faces by Kevin Owens and especially Sami Zayn. Zayn deserves all sorts of accolades, especially for his acting. His ring work is great, but his acting, his expressions, his body language, his subtle movement, the nuances that he adds to everything he does in the ring is lights out, top level, elite stuff. I cannot say enough good things about Sami Zayn. Kevin Owens too, but Sami Zayn is just on another level. Kevin Owens does a really good job playing this sort of badass, super intense and emotional guy who just goes off. But Sami Zayn has so many levels to him as a character. Just everything about this guy is so top shelf. I can't begin to give enough praise to Sami Zayn, especially for what he's done over the course of this entire storyline with the Bloodline. I mean, the things he's done in the past before this were pretty great, but this whole storyline, his whole involvement in it, the build up, the hype, and the payoff has been 100% grade A. You don't get much better than Sami Zayn. He's not a big muscular dude. He's not a Roman Reigns. He's not a guy with the birthright like Cody Rhodes to be a legendary superstar forever in the making. He's just some scrappy dude from Canada who for a long time put on a mask and fought in bingo halls and gyms for hot dogs and handshakes, right? For many years. And now this is what he's doing. He's the story is incredible, man. Sami Zayn, let me digress a bit here. If you haven't had the opportunity, go watch Sami Zayn's interview with Stone Cold Steve Austin on the Broken Skull sessions. He did it, I think, maybe two years ago. No, it was more recent than that. I think it was right before his match with Johnny Knoxville, which was last year at WrestleMania. So I think it was slightly before WrestleMania of last year. I liked Sami Zayn before this interview quite a bit, but after seeing that and the endorsement that he got from Stone Cold that during that interview, I came out just even more respect and admiration for the guy. Please, if you're a Sami Zayn fan at all, even if you're not, if you're just getting to know Sami Zayn, take a moment. I think it's like an hour and a half. Go find Sami Zayn on the Broken Skull session with Steve Austin. It's phenomenal. But getting back to this match, great match. I thought it needed to happen. I thought it was going to play into the bigger story that was going to happen on night 2. And in a way it did. Not in the way that I thought. But I'm not going to say the Usos needed to lose their titles. I mean, they did if what I thought was going to play out on night 2 would have played out. But obviously, this is going to add more levels, more nuance to the Bloodline versus Zayn, Owens, Rhodes story. It's yet to be seen what those levels and new depths are, but, if you have any idea what happened night 2, and I'm sure you do if you're listening to this, there's going to be further storytelling with this storyline, and they're going to have to add more to it if they don't want it to become stale. So the Usos losing this and Zayn and Owens taking the titles off the Usos adds some complexity to this whole storyline of the Usos, Sikoa, and Reigns versus Zayn, Owens, and Cody Rhodes. And that is necessary. Even more so now with what happened on night 2. So as I predicted, Zayn and Owens take this one. Great match, great storytelling, incredible work, again, by Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, but also the Usos, who are forever next level tag team. Future Hall of Famers. First ballot Hall of Famers, obviously. But Zayn and Owens take this, adding some complexity into what's going to happen post-WrestleMania. And we'll see how that goes starting tomorrow night. But, night 2, after an amazing night 1. So night 2 starts off Brock Lesnar versus Omos. I got this one absolutely incorrect. I had Omos winning with help from a returning Hurt Business. I thought possibly this is what WWE was going to give to Bobby Lashley as a spot if Bray Wyatt wasn't going to show up and have a match with Bobby. I was wrong. Brock Lesnar for the first half of this match, pretty much has his ass handed to him by Omos. But then Lesnar hulks up and defeats Omos. This was a spectacle match. That's clear to everybody. This was hastily slapped together, somewhat last minute. Not much hype, not much build up, but it was meant to be eye candy. It wasn't meant to be a story-driven match. And boy, was it not a story-driven match. But I don't understand the outcome. I would think WWE, while this match made Omos look strong, he gave Brock Lesnar a run for the money. But I expected Omos to take this, further building him as the next giant monster. Instead, Lesnar takes it. Omos is helped slightly because it made him look a wee bit stronger, a wee bit more fierce and monstrous. But in the end, they could have done more for him. How many more times is Brock Lesnar going to be around? Even he himself has questioned. He doesn't know how much longer he's got in WWE. Lesnar, that is. Omos is somebody I speculate they're keeping around. They'd like to build up. Is this the beginning of this feud? Is this going to be a long-term thing? Maybe we see Omos eventually take out Lesnar, but it was a match. It was entertaining to watch. I'll give it that much. It's fun to watch two giant dudes beat the hell out of each other. But I just expected, for character development, they would give this to Omos. I guess they don't see that as what they want to do yet. So Lesnar wins. Moving on. This next match was the women's Fatal 4-Way Showcase, Tag Team Showcase, the second Tag Team Showcase of the weekend. This was Raquel Rodriguez and Liv Morgan versus Shotzi and Natalya versus Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler versus Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville. Not good, y'all. I'm sorry. At least the showcase on the first night was entertaining. At least there was a reason somewhat to watch that for the entertainment value. And it delivered. This match did not deliver anything other than it was a filler match. Again, what was the reason for this? I could make the same argument for the men's showcase match on night one. There was no real reason for it, especially because there was no development with Otis and Gable and potentially Maxine getting involved. I thought that was going to happen. So therefore, really, it was just an exhibition. This, too, was just an exhibition. There was no forward progress for any of these competitors. I predicted Rousey and Baszler to win, and yes, I got that right because they did in fact win. But did we expect anything else? Did anybody get this wrong? Did anybody predict any of these other non-teams to win this tag team match? Rousey and Baszler are the only two in this match that constitute anything close to a team. They're at least like friends and have a history. Rodriguez and Morgan, they're not a team. Shotzi and Natalya are not a team. Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville are maybe the next best potential team on this match, but they've been a team for 2 weeks, and the only reason they might resemble a team is because they both kind of have like a Karen gimmick going on. And I can actually see that moving forward, working out as a team. But they've only been together for like 2 weeks. And it was because Carmella was like injured or something, right? First it was Chelsea Green and Carmella. Then it was Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. Then now it's Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville. Which honestly makes more sense than Chelsea and Carmella or Chelsea and Piper. Chelsea and Carmella maybe a little bit because they're both sort of vapid and annoying, right? But Chelsea Green and Sonya Deville, yeah, two two Karens in a pod. That makes a little bit of sense. But they were just put together like 10, 11, 12 days ago. This served no purpose. I don't even have anything else to say about this other than I think I made coffee during this match and caught the half end of it. I was listening to it from my kitchen, and that alone was enough, and enough to tell me I didn't need to see this. Nobody needed to see this. This is a SmackDown match at best, a house show match maybe, but this had no business on WrestleMania. So let's move on. Gunther, Drew McIntyre, and Sheamus for the Intercontinental Championship. I predicted Gunther retains. And guess what? Gunther retained, and rightfully so. What a match. They got, this, I think, was the only match this entire weekend that got an actual standing ovation, not only from the crowd, but the commentary teams. They had Michael Cole and Corey Graves were beside themselves ringside. And no question as to why. That's deserved. This match was amazing. What a match. What brutality. We expected to see it. We knew this was coming. But even knowing what was coming wasn't enough to spoil this or make it boring. This was an incredible performance from all three of these dudes. What a match. Gunther continues to elevate, and I think I've called him Gunther and Gunther. I apologize. But Gunther continues to elevate the IC title like no one that I can remember. This made Gunther a star. This match, if he wasn't established enough already, Gunther's stock, I think maybe more than anyone on the entire WrestleMania card, has risen astronomically. What a performance from all three of these guys, but Gunther in particular. Man, I thought at the conclusion of WrestleMania, Roman Reigns would go away for a while, and Gunther would step right into his shoes and fill that void as the top heel in the company. But, as we'll talk about later, that's not exactly going to happen. But Gunther has certainly established himself as possibly the next guy up as far as heels go. No doubt about it. Gunther is going to be a big deal. He is already, but I'm talking main event level. The absolute hamburger meat that these guys turned each other's chests into. Again, we see it in every match these guys have, but it never gets old. It was not old here. I don't see it getting old anytime soon. I would watch this type of match over and over again. Absolutely incredible. These guys beat the absolute piss out of each other. It was one of the best matches of the weekend. If not pound for pound, the best match of the weekend. Gunther retains. Rightfully so. Drew and Sheamus can move on and feud with each other, or go back to being beer drinking buddies, whatever. But Gunther is up next. Moving on. Bianca Belair versus Asuka. If I could go back in time and have control over this card, I would put this match on night 1, and I'd move Charlotte and Rhea to night 2. And I'm not saying that to shit on this match or to shit on Bianca Belair and Asuka. This was a fine match. It just, as far as women's championships go, they sort of had to follow Charlotte and Rhea. Even though it didn't happen, it didn't even happen on the same night, let alone the match before. They weren't technically following that match. But in a way, they were following that match. They were the night 2 women's championship match. Charlotte and Rhea were night 1. So they, in a way, had to follow it. Not quite up to the level. of Charlotte and Rhea, as far as intensity, as far as storytelling. Still a good match. Bianca Belair and Asuka are both great. They're both legitimate female competitors, no doubt. And they've both earned this spotlight, especially Bianca Belair. I think I was spoiled, like most of us were, after the Charlotte and Rhea match. We wanted more of that. At least I wanted more of that. We still got a fine match. I predicted Bianca to retain, and she did in fact retain. I don't know what Asuka does from here, but I do still think Charlotte comes to Raw, becomes a heel, and takes on Bianca Belair. And I believe Charlotte is going to be the woman that takes the Raw Women's Championship at some point off of Bianca. No discredit to Bianca, but, Charlotte's got to hop around if she wants to get to the 16 championship mark to match her dad. And I think that's what's happening. I could be wrong, but that's just what I feel in my gut. So Bianca retains. It was an alright. It was better than alright. It was a good match. But still, it just... after Charlotte and Rhea, man, it just... How do you match that? How do you follow that? But it is what it is. Bianca retains. Moving on. Next up, we get, as I predicted, Brood Edge versus Demon Finn Balor. Hell in a Cell. So I did a little bit of long-term fantasy booking on my prediction show for this match. I predicted that Demon Finn was going to beat Brood Edge, possibly with the help of Judgment Day, possibly knocking Edge off TV for a while. Edge would come back for revenge, admitting that he can't take out Finn alone, because Finn's always got help. And somehow this would set up April 2024, WrestleMania 40. A returning Christian and Edge versus Finn and Priest. You can hear the strategy behind that on the prediction show. But this did not happen, at least not in the way I predicted. Demon Finn did not win. Brood Edge won, which is fine. My long-term fantasy booking can still happen. It's still possible. But this makes it a little harder to get to that point. And it makes me wonder if this feud between Edge and Judgment Day is actually over. It kind of feels like it might be. It'll be interesting to see where Edge goes from here. He finally accomplished his goal. He took out Finn Balor. So did he really accomplish his goal, though? Because as far as I can tell, Judgment Day is still alive and kicking. Isn't Edge's mission to destroy Judgment Day? Does beating Finn Balor in this Hell in a Cell ultimately destroy Judgment Day? Well, that'd make them pretty weak if one loss causes them to break up and go their own separate ways for some reason. Maybe they could use Rhea winning the title and having to move the majority of her appearances to SmackDown as part of the reason why they'd have to splinter and fracture. But I guess Edge took care of part of his goal. I don't see this as being, the completion of his ultimate goal, which is to completely destroy and demolish Judgment Day. That's what he has stated. His goal is to destroy Judgment Day. He wants to destroy what he created. Beating Finn Balor in one match does not accomplish that. So maybe my long-term fantasy booking is still in play here. I just see it a little harder to get to with an Edge victory. Finn Balor gets his skull caved in by a ladder. Kind of a weird, awkward situation. They end up stopping the match for a little bit so Finn can be attended to by medical staff. So they can put a butterfly bandage on his wound or whatever they do to stop a dude from bleeding from a ladder wound. Something like this might not be a big problem moving forward. The sight of blood in WWE following tonight may no longer be an issue. Because Word is WWE has been sold to Endeavor. Endeavor runs UFC. Is UFC afraid of blood? No. In fact, I think blood is one of the main decorations on UFC television. It'd be weird if there weren't blood in the UFC. I'm not going to get into the whole Endeavor thing. I just wanted, hearing about that before WrestleMania and then seeing this situation unfold with Finn being split open and them having to stop the match sort of made me think, like, this is a problem now if somebody accidentally bleeds. But in 24 hours, is it going to be a problem? Maybe not. We'll see. But either way, cool entrances, I guess. I half expected a Gangrel sighting. That didn't happen. I mean, even Gangrel posted on social media that he'd be in LA. Maybe that was just for a convention or something. But I halfway expected Gangrel to be there. He was not there. Edge comes out to Slayer, which was neat. 15 seconds of Slayer, and then into standard Edge entrance music. I would have rather heard the old Brood entrance music like they did last year, but nonetheless. Finn comes out to his old entrance music with the demon alterations, the demon remix of his old entrance. Kind of neat. I don't know about Demon Finn, man. He's a little, when I think of Demon Finn, I want something, I want ferocious Demon Finn. I want Demon Finn to be, demonic. Not like theatrical dance demon. I don't want, purple smoke. I don't even... The purple smoke thing, whatever those contraptions were, I guess they look cool, right? But it doesn't fit with a guy who's going by the demon. It just seems a little high school theater to me. A little cheap, a little... It doesn't mesh well with what I want from that character. I want barbaric, demonic, murderous. I don't get it. Decent, fun match. I heard a lot of people shit on this match. I didn't think it was as bad as people are saying it was. But I think it could have been better. Especially on Finn's part. Either way, Edge beats Finn. I got this wrong, so let's not talk about it anymore. Next up, we get the second impromptu Miz match. I forgot to talk about it in the night one. I sort of talked about it before I got started on the card. I talked about McAfee returning to face Miz with Kittle coming out from the crowd and helping McAfee. The Miz lost that one, and he would ultimately lose the second match against one of our surprises, a returning Shane McMahon. Shane, who looks as 50 years old as ever, comes running out, does his shtick, does his jig on the way to the ring. Snoop Dogg, again, makes the match official, which I don't know what sort of power is vested in him by WWE management to make impromptu matches officially. But Snoop Dogg makes the call. Shane McMahon versus The Miz. Match starts. Shane McMahon does a leapfrog, and Shane McMahon lands from the leapfrog, and Shane McMahon, stunting like his daddy, tears his quad into 1,000 pieces. Those McMahons and their quads, how fragile they are. It's gotta be genetic. I guess that's maybe that's the McMahon tradition. You gotta tear your quad in a big spot at some point. At least Shane McMahon did it, performing an athletic maneuver, unlike Vince, who tore both of them crawling into the ring. Either way, this showed the wrestling aptitude, the showmanship of one Snoop Dogg, who proceeds to take Shane McMahon's spot and beats the shit out of The Miz and beats The Miz. What a timely improvisation by Mr. Dogg. Because what else? Boy, before Snoop Dogg leapt into action, The Miz looked completely lost. When McMahon went down and The Miz, who was running the ropes when Shane went down, proceeded to just continue running the ropes with a look of panic on his face. Like, oh shit, what am I going to do now? This wasn't supposed to happen. I'm just going to keep running the ropes until I guess somebody stops me. But Snoop Dogg, being the genius that he is, proceeds to step into McMahon's place, lays a couple shots, drops a Snoop Dogg elbow, all of The Rock, and beats The Miz. There's not much more to say about that other than, I guess, bionic legs should be something that all elder McMahon statesmen consider in their more senior years. So, moving on from there, main event time. The main event of the main event. Roman Reigns, Cody Rhodes, for the WWE Undisputed Universal Championship. I predicted Cody Rhodes wins. God damn it. Shit. Fuck. Well, I got this one wrong. Boy, did I get this one wrong. And so did, 98% of wrestling fans. What a way to go out like a sucker. What a way to deflate 81,000 people as they're about to go home. Either way, I've done some thinking about this. Was I disappointed? Yes. Was I shocked? A little bit. But do I think this is a good thing? Ultimately, yes, I do. And let me explain. Cody losing this match, unlike what the internet at large thinks, is not the end of the world. Is not the end for Cody Rhodes. In fact, this is probably the best case scenario. Not only for Cody Rhodes, but for Roman Reigns, who is apparently never ever going to go on any sort of vacation. Which is fine, I guess, because really he does take a good amount of time off between appearances. If you really think about it, if you pay attention. He doesn't do house shows anymore. He only does Raw and SmackDown and premium live events, obviously. But there are periods of time where for a week or two, he's not there. The bloodline is there, but he's not there. And usually they've made a point to say that they'll have Paul Heyman come out and say, returning next week on SmackDown, the Tribal Chief will be here. He's not a every week appearance at this point. So maybe that's their way of giving the guy a breather. Maybe he doesn't need or want a long vacation. This establishes Roman even more so. I know he's established already, right? 900 plus days and counting. But they're so close to so many more milestones in that streak. Why stop now? Because it's Cody Rhodes? Yeah, that's the obvious answer. Yes, it's Cody Rhodes, of course. Rhodes has got to win this based on the hype and the build-up and the story behind it. That's what I thought too. I'm guilty of that thought process as well. But in a way, Cody winning tonight would have been too soon. And I realize that now. Cody just got back from injury. There's a good chance Cody wins tonight had he not been knocked out with the pec injury. He missed, 6 months? That's 6 more months they could have spent building up the hype for this match. he probably still would have won the Royal Rumble. He probably still would have main evented this WrestleMania in this very match. But there would have been more of a build-up. In retrospect, the build-up we got was sort of hot-shotted. It was shot out of a cannon because he just came back in January? For a match of this magnitude, for a story of this magnitude, you need more than less than 4 months of hype and build-up. This, as I mentioned, like the Usos losing the tag team championship, but Roman Reigns retaining, adds depth, adds complexity, adds more nuance to the storyline. It continues the successful long-term storyline build-up that the WWE is suddenly and thankfully implementing into its creative structure. It's no longer champion for 3 months, new guy gets it. That guy is champion for 5 months, another guy gets it. It's no longer back and forth hot potato with these supposedly meaningful championships. This sort of long-term storyline telling and continuity is something that we have begged for, that we have longed for as WWE fans for years. They are finally giving it to us, but we got impatient. Allow this to continue to slow burn. The reason on the last episode on my predictions episode that I wanted them to end this bloodline era was so that we don't risk stagnation, so that we don't risk this going stale, so that we don't risk this becoming tired and boring. But by adding more depth and complexity and nuance to it, as they are doing, with the Usos losing but Roman retaining, and Cody having to continue this chase, adds the ingredients to give this more longevity, to give this more intrigue and interest. This will be for the better for both of these guys. Cody Rhodes becomes more humble. He has to fight more. He has to fight harder. And ultimately, I do see him eventually beating Roman. I see him still being the guy that eventually beats Roman and takes the titles off of him. But building that up more, since he was out for so long, since this WrestleMania storyline was, we forget, but it was sort of rushed. It was sort of, they had no choice but to rush it because they knew Cody was going to be the guy. But also with him being out for so long, they knew they were going to have a limited time to build the storyline up to WrestleMania. From Royal Rumble. Letting Roman beat Cody in the initial attempt, in this first match between the two, gives this history. Gives this more reason for us to want to see Cody be victorious at some point. It needed to go down like this, and I know it was disappointing. I know it was deflating, especially for those people in that audience who were expecting to celebrate Cody Rhodes winning that match. Boy, did they play us for... They really did everything they could to make us think that Cody was going to win. From having his family at ringside, which is always sign number one, somebody is winning, right? Their family is ringside. They had -1, Brody's kid, ringside. He gave him the weight belt. They set this up to be that wholesome, feel-good story, which was going to come true the way that they were setting it up. They fooled us, and good on them for doing that, because it adds so much more to what is going to be a continued storyline, one that's only just getting started, and it needs more than that 4-month build-up. The addition of Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens into this mix makes it even better. It adds more layers. Them winning the tag titles off of the Usos makes it better. Solo Sikoa getting involved in the way he did after the back and forth he's had with Cody on Raw over the past couple of weeks, Raw and SmackDown. Cody the quote, "You're not ready" Solo. Obviously, Solo's going to play more of a factor in this moving forward. This adds so much more. And it allows for a build-up and a long enough hype train that the fans deserve, that Cody deserves, that Roman deserves, that the side players, the Usos and Owens and Sammy and Solo and Heyman deserve. The payoff, had it come tonight, would have been tremendous. But the payoff now, with it continuing in this manner, is going to be absolutely monumental. This gives time for the storyline to boil longer, more properly, and it further establishes Roman with this streak. It allows him to reach even more milestones and pass up more legends on that championship streak list. This is a brilliant way to build this feud up, and the payoff in the end when it finally happens, which it will, trust me, it's gonna happen, just not yet. And after thinking about it, I am thankful that that's the way that they're going about it. It's going to be worth it. But, great match, a little bit typical of a Roman match, slow, methodic to start, ref bump, outside interference. This time, somebody was there to even the score with the Usos. Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens came out when they interfered. But, unfortunately, they were still outnumbered, because regardless of Solo Sikoa getting banished to the back for interfering in the matchup early on, he found his way back, and the crew of Cody and Kevin and Sammy were ultimately outnumbered. Maybe they need another guy. Maybe they need a fourth man. It's an interesting mental rabbit hole to go down, thinking who might be a worthy addition to this squad of guys trying to take out the Bloodline. Because right now it's 4, technically 5 with Heyman, against 3 in Rhodes, Owens, and Zayn. Maybe they need some backup. But Roman wins to the surprise of everyone, and WrestleMania 39 comes to a bit of a deflating end. I think it was necessary. Again, I did not originally feel that way. I thought for sure Cody was going to win this match, but after much thought, post-match, this is a good thing. And this is going to make the inevitable payoff that much bigger. So, WrestleMania did not disappoint me. This was one of the better WrestleManias that I've seen in a long time. Very memorable. Lots of great matches. A couple of misses, some swings and misses, but it's not going to be perfect. I think they dropped the ball on a couple things. I think they really dropped the ball on Lashley. I don't know why LA Knight was not a part of this. Having Snoop Dogg on the show saved their ass. So, before I go, I just wanted to touch on, it sounds like, well, we always expect the Raw after WrestleMania to be a surprise. To be full of surprises. Nick Khan mentioned not too long ago that there were a lot of surprises planned for WrestleMania. And honestly, that was kind of bullshit, right? There weren't a lot of surprises. There were some unexpected match outcomes, but not a lot of, returns or surprise guests. KSI? Come on. Joe Coffey at Stand and Deliver? Okay, these are all things that you could kind of expect. So the Raw after WrestleMania, I'm really expect now to be full of surprises, because they kind of fell short on that element at WrestleMania, I feel. So again, some of the possibilities. Return-wise, Shinsuke, Ciampa, Randy Orton, Matt Riddle. I still want heel Matt Riddle. I forgot to mention on the last episode AJ Styles. It took me seeing Carl Anderson and Gallows in the Andre the Giant Battle Royal to remember that AJ Styles was still a thing. Maybe AJ comes back. Call-ups, debuts, Cameron Grimes maybe. I originally listed Carmelo and Trick. That's not going to happen. I originally listed Indy Hartwell. That's not going to happen either. Zoe Stark, maybe. I don't know, man. We'll see. It's going to be interesting, especially with what happened earlier today. The announcement, allegedly, that Endeavor has bought WWE, or a sale is pending. It has not been announced for sure. Triple H refused to comment on it at the post-Wrestlemania press conference when asked about it. So tomorrow could be interesting in more ways than one. Maybe that's the surprise that Nick Khan was alluding to. Either way, hell of a weekend, hell of a WrestleMania. NXT was good too. I had a lot of fun watching it, experiencing it, and I had a lot of fun talking about it. Following Monday Night Raw, I'm sure there will be plenty more to talk about, so we will get to that next time on Facebuster Podcast. I will talk to you then. Take care.